It's Friday and we're talking adoption.
The conversation starts now.
It's Friday on Foster Live.
It is.
Courtney, you're not usually with us on Fridays.
I'm not, but Tristan's on vacation. So
you're filling in, are you?
Am.
We are doing our first ever adoption feature today. And if you don't know, we're looking for adoption stories that we can run twice a month. And that just kind of helps encourage people that are thinking about adopting, encourages people that are in the middle of adopting, and just is feel-good stories about kids that have been adopted and their little miracle stories, because it seems like they're all a miracle.
Yes.
So, today we have the Haddock family with us, and I know that you've had some time to spend with them earlier today talking with them. And so we're going to take a look at their story today, and we're going to get right to it because it's pretty exciting right here on Foster Life. We'll be right back.
I'm here with Kathy Haddock, and Kathy, I've heard you've had such a fascinating story, so we just kind of want to dive right in, and I really want to know what brought you to fostering Caleb and Tyler and their siblings, and how you got there.
Yeah, it's kind of a convoluted story. I actually started as a teacher. I taught high school, and I was going to foster years ago, maybe 10 years ago, and it just didn't work out. Things didn't happen. And then I started working for Caleb when he came into care because he has cerebral palsy. He has an aide, and so I was Caleb's aide just shortly after he came to live with Hopes, because a lot of times if you have a foster kid that has a disability, then you do get staff. So I worked with Caleb for about 3.5 years, and his siblings were placed with another family, but they would come to visit occasionally. And so I knew kind of all the siblings. And then we were really pushing for his reunification for a long time. And then when that wasn't working out, then we had an adoptive family, and I thought, this is really something I want to do, because working with Hope and the Harders, they have adopted, I think, 11 kids now, and all of them have special needs, and so it's just an incredible family story there. And we had some foster kids that went through. So I started doing the training, mainly to do respite for Hope, because she was going to be gone for a while.
So I lived in Verona at Hope's, and it was kind of fun there, but then Kathy was my staff, and then she had my sister before me and Tyler, and then we were at her house for a little bit before we got adopted.
So when was the moment you knew you wanted Kathy to adopt you?
The first time I saw her.
First time? How about for you, Tyler? How did you know that you wanted Kathy to adopt you?
The same way, but yeah, the same way.
So I started doing the training. Every time I went to a different training class, it was like 3 hours every Wednesday. I was like, I'll come one more time. It's just one more time. I don't think this is going to work out. I don't see, because I'm a single person, and I was doing caregiving, which is not a great job for sure as far as pay considered. But I thought, I've worked with high school kids before. I could work with high school girls. I could do that. And so every time I just come back one more time. And then after I finished the classes, I kind of messed around with the home studies, because I was living with my parents at the time, and so she'd come and visit, and I'm like, yeah, I'll get a place and we'll figure it out. And then I was at Hope's, and Jessica came to live with us, and at Hope's, not me, but she wasn't able to live there anymore, and so I literally sent an email, and 2 days later had a kid. So it was, and I moved on Thursday I sent the email, on Tuesday I had the utilities turned on in my apartment, and she moved in.
So what's it like with Kathy? What's it like living there?
It's like I have a place to call home.
Oh, I love that. A place to call home. What does that mean to you?
It means that Kathy will come back 100% of the time.
And so through the course of this whole experience, they had one failed adoption, which was just gut-wrenching, and I just could not let these kids drift through the system anymore.
I love being adopted.
You love being adopted? What do you love about being adopted?
That I have a mom that I can trust.
A mom that you can trust?
Well, when we were living with our mom, some issues happened. And we got taken away.
Did you think you would be the one to adopt them and have them as your forever family?
Well, I think that was the plan, even when we had Jessica come to live with us, but we were really kind of careful about saying anything to the kids about it. So we kind of transitioned them in slowly. We transitioned them in slowly, and really wanted to adopt all 3 kids so that the siblings could stay together. They have a younger sibling that was adopted separately, and it was really difficult for the kids. But we really wanted to keep them all together. And so we tried, but at that point they'd been in the system for about 5 years. And I think that a lot of times people underestimate just the continued trauma that kids experience by staying in the system for years and years and years and years.
Were you guys together before you met Kathy? Were you like in the same placement?
No.
No.
Me and him were separated for 2.5 years.
2.5 years, that's a long time.
Yeah.
So was it important for you guys to have a family that was together?
Yes.
When Kathy was going to adopt us, she had us in a
And the importance of reunification, and you want to give everyone as many chances as you possibly can. But at some point you just have to move forward.
Right. What are some things that you can pass along to other kiddos who are thinking maybe they want to be adopted or are worried about not being adopted?
That it is okay to be afraid, but I know that you will find a home. Like I did.
What do you want their adoptive parents to know?
That they,
Probably their adopted family, or if they're not adopted, they might want.
they could contact mom. And she'll probably tell them stuff.
Or the family they're with, they could think that, wanting to think that they want to get adopted so they could have a perfect family so they can have someone to live with.
Changes emotionally and physically have you seen in the kiddos since they've been adopted?
Well, I think adoption is really challenging. I think that people portray it as like this wonderful, sunshiny, incredible experience, and it is that. But it's also, it's a lot of grief. I mean, there's just a lot of grief involved with adoption because it is absolutely the death of one family.
By a lot, but I like being his brother. Most of the time.
Excuse me?
Looking back on this whole experience, what's a piece of advice you might give to an adoptive family who's struggling with that weight and that trying to make peace with the death of a family and the beginning of another family?
I think you have to be really careful to honor the family, both families. You have to honor the family that was and the family that is, and you have to try to make those two things work together. I think for you to move forward with your new family and forget about the old family is a huge mistake because it's a part of their story and it's an important part of their story. So I think that's probably the most important thing that you have to do. And keep in mind that the grief takes time and it's going to come back. And it's just like any other type of grief. And there's things that bring it up and you think, oh my goodness, are we not finished with this yet? And you're just not. You're not finished with it. And you wouldn't expect even adult people when they lose a parent, they still grieve about that. And you can't expect kids to have anything different.
Most of the time. Caleb, you were telling me some jokes before shooting. I think the audience has to hear a joke. We have to.
Where did the cows go?
Where did the cows go? I don't know.
To the movies.
To the movies. That's a good one.
People get the idea that, well, you're adopted now, so everything's fine. And that's not how feelings work. That's just not how it works.
Is there anything else that we should know, that kids should know, that adoptive parents should know about your family or about the process that is just really important?
I think you just figure it out. I think there was a lot with me. I was really scared to do it, and I sat with it a lot. And I would go to the park and I'd just kind of sit with my decision and figure out before I had the kids move in. And I don't think you're ever ready. I think if you're waiting for some supreme sign or a calling even, it's not necessarily going to happen that way. I think sometimes you just have to, if you're uncomfortable enough with the way things are, then you have to make a change. You just have to move forward. And things come up all the time that are just ridiculously difficult. I mean, ridiculously difficult. And you just figure it out.
Like
kids.
Boys Town.
We
Yeah,
got beat up
Boys
there.
Town.
Yeah, we were took in there. And then when I was
People were hitting him, punching him, so
stepping on me. And
pushing him
then
out of his wheelchair and all.
also,
Just figure it out.
I wonder if you can give us an example of what one of those ridiculously difficult things are that you've dealt with.
Well, I think for me, because I have more than just the two boys, I have other foster children in my home, and we have a lot of behaviors, and sometimes they all have behaviors the same day, and so it's like you're going from fire to fire to fire to fire, and by 3 o'clock you're exhausted, and how do you manage to go on? And you just do it. And people say all the time, I don't know how you do it, and I don't either. But if you stop and think about it, and you think about all the parts of things that you have to do, then it's overwhelming. But if you just do this part, if you just focus on this step and move forward, then I think that's probably your best advice. And the other thing I think, because I was I'm older. I'm not like in my 20s, obviously. But becoming a parent at 45 is a big change. It's a big life change. And so I think you have to be patient with yourself and kind of work through your own personal changes, because motherhood was not something in my plan. I wasn't interested in that. And then, you know, I met these kids and it just happened.
Isn't that always the way?
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe. That's for me.
The conversation starts this week on Foster Life.
Welcome back. We're talking to the Haddock family today about their adoption story, and during the break we were talking a little bit about Caleb and some of the struggles and good things that come along with having a child who has some special needs. Talk us through that a little bit.
Well, for me, I knew Caleb for 3.5 years before he moved in with me. So I know that a lot of people, they see the wheels and they get really nervous, just because how's this going to work and what's going to happen, and I don't understand what I'm going to do. Or people sometimes have the attitude that special needs kids go to special people, that that's the way that it works. But it's just like anything else, you just kind of figure out how you work it. And Caleb's disabilities are, I think, pretty minor. He just happens to have wheels. So that's been great for us. Plus, what has been really rewarding about working with Caleb is that he's always learning new stuff. Like, he rides a bike and he goes swimming, and he played basketball last night here in town. And so sometimes when people see the chair, they think of all of his disabilities, but we like to think more about his abilities because he's really kind of a neat kid.
I was born, I had a trach, and then the camper tip broke off and was swimming around inside of me, so I had to be flown to St. Louis.
But as a caregiver, working with people with disabilities wasn't a big deal for me because it was just something I did every day. And I know that there's a lot of caregivers out there that maybe they're working with somebody that they think, oh, this is just a great kid. I wish I could take him home with me. And somebody said that to me once. He goes, oh, that's such a great kid. I wish I could take him home with me. You know what I mean? I said, exactly, because I did it. Because he was in a situation where he needed a family, and I was able to take him home with me.
And you said, I'm remembering back a little bit, you said that they were in care for about 5 years, right? And you knew him for about 3 years before he came into your home, so that seems like it was a really long wait once he did come into your home to adoption. What did that look like for you? What did that process look like? Because sometimes it goes really fast, and I know there's a lot of people who worry about how long it's taking, but obviously 2 years is not a short amount of time.
Yeah, well, I worked with the family that he was at before for 3.5 years and had kind of been privy to the trials and tribulations of the different court dates. But, you know, after a while you just kind of get into a state of denial that this is my family and this is the way it is, and we just live our lives like that. When the boys moved in with me, they weren't having visits anymore, so we weren't doing that kind of stuff. And we were just kind of waiting for the court system. And I think the really sad thing was a lot of the waiting was just trying to find a date on the docket. And so it wasn't that they were giving people more chances to work the plan. It was just finding a date when all the lawyers could get together. And that, I think, was the most frustrating thing for me. But we just kind of lived our lives. And we talked about maybe hiring a separate lawyer for us to represent the needs of the kids. But ultimately, we just waited it out. And then once it happened, my lawyer wasn't getting back to me with a court date, and so I called them. It was right after Memorial Day, and they're like, oh, it's a long ways off. It's June 1st. And I said, June 1st? That's Friday. This is Tuesday. So you wait and wait and wait, and then it's like, bam, it's over before you know it. So, but I just feel like I've had him forever at this point. So probably the wait is pretty frustrating, but once they're yours, they're just yours. And it doesn't really matter if you're in court or not, they're just yours.
So then you were at Boys Town, and then I know you said you went to, did you say Hopes?
Yeah.
Well, tell us a little bit about that.
So, I was there before my sister, then they wanted Hope to take my sister. That didn't end up working out, so she had to get moved with Type.
What brought you to Hopes? Like, how did you end up there?
She got a call about me, so she came to take me up.
What would be advice that you might give to a potential foster parent who is thinking about fostering a child with different needs than most, or going through that adoptive process?
I think the learning curve is steep, so prepare yourself for that. Caleb, of course, is in school, and so the IEP process has been eye-opening. You need to set up your supports, and we're lucky in Lawrence County that we have a very active board for the developmentally disabled, and so we're very fortunate for that. We're in a good county for that, and we're in a school district that's really supportive of his needs, so that's been helpful. Aurora's been great with that, but it's time consuming, and you have to prepare yourself, and we've been through 3 surgeries and specialists and seizure scares and all kinds of different things that it's just something that you just deal with. Yeah.
I like getting adopted by you. I love being in your home.
What about you, Caleb?
This place.
Welcome back to Foster Live. Rob and Courtney here today. Tristan's down in Florida.
Must be
Having
nice.
spring break down there a little early, but that's okay. But we are visiting with the Haddock family, and this is one of my favorite families. You guys actually lived in the town that we used to live in. And my boys would come home from school and talk about your boys, and then I would see you dropping your kids off at school and stuff. But then we kind of finally met after we moved through Facebook and whatnot. But your adoption story is pretty amazing. Now, did I catch that correctly? You hadn't planned on adopting or being a parent or anything like that?
No, I really hadn't planned on being a parent. After working with the Harders for so long, and they've adopted so many kids, I really was kind of inspired to maybe foster to work APPLA with teenage girls.
Right.
Because I used to work in high school and I coached cheerleading, so I figured, hey, I can handle it. It'll
Right.
be fine. And so that was really my plan. And they always kind of laugh in adoption training, don't they? Who do you plan to adopt?
Right, exactly.
And then who do you actually adopt? Because it usually ends up to be something totally different.
Yeah. We actually said that we were not going to adopt We were only going to do emergency, and we've done everything that we said that we weren't going to do.
Yeah.
Even they would ask us if we would be interested in taking girls at any time, and we said no, we didn't think so. And we have a daughter, and we have another baby in our house that are girls. And
Yeah.
they're just fine,
Yeah.
and they do good. So, what has been the most? What has been your highest moment through this journey?
I don't know. My highest moment, I mean, the adoption was pretty incredible. Getting
Right.
the adoption done, that was pretty incredible. I think that if you're waiting for the big moment, the big day, that's fantastic. I think you'd wait a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have a lot of bad moments and we have a lot of really cool moments. And sometimes it's just whenever all the boys are playing nicely.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh my goodness, that's so cute.
Yeah.
Or when you see that where they're being helpful with each other, and that's really great. Or last night when we were at the basketball game and the boys were playing basketball and they kept waving at me, that was kind of pretty incredible.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's kind of how it's always been for us. Like our first son, we were sitting there, and his name's Robert too, and I'm Rob, and my real name's Robert. And he asked me, he said, "Could I have the exact same name as you when I get adopted?" And it was just like kind of out of the blue. It wasn't planned. It wasn't, and I'll always remember that about him through our journey. And I think that that's kind of the cool thing. But also, like you said, I know that sometimes, like on Sundays, our family day, and when everybody just gets along and we do something fun and everybody's having a good time, it's like, oh, I love doing this. It's an amazing experience, and so that's good as well.
right.
So, the big question that we want to know for everybody out there, if you could give one piece of advice to that single mom, single dad, or couple that's thinking that they want to start this foster adoptive journey, what would be your advice?
I think probably the best advice that I got during training is that if I can do it, you can do it. And you think, oh no, but you're just a special person and I'm just an ordinary person. But the fact is, it's just a lot of ordinary people doing ordinary things every day, all day, and you just do it.
Yep.
So if I can do it, you can absolutely do it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of great resources out there, and there's a lot of great services out there, and there's a lot of people that are willing to help. I always say it takes a tribe, and it really does take a tribe.
Yeah, and I'm really intentional about building my tribe. Like the secretary at the school, she is my saving grace. They save me all the time. And the nurse at school, and some of your tribe, people think that you have to have a lot of friends, really close friends. And it's not just about friends, it's about people in the community that just want to help.
Right.
And sometimes you have to be willing to say yes to that help.
Yeah.
You just have to say, yes,
Yeah.
I will take it.
That was the biggest thing when we started doing this journey, is even like WIC for babies. I was weird about doing WIC. And I was like, well, we don't really need WIC and stuff. And I've had to kind of learn through this whole process that there's a lot available, and we are opening our doors because we want to, but we also need to take advantage of the services that are out there and the help that's out there, because it helps us to be better at what we do.
Yeah, and I think WIC is also important for reunification, that you have those supports set up for whenever they go back to their bio families.
Yeah, definitely.
And especially if you have a kid with a disability, that if you have the services to help with that kid set up, then when they go back home, it's going to be a lot easier.
Exactly. Absolutely. Well, Caleb and Tyler and Kathy, thank you for coming on and sharing your story. It's an amazing story, and I love it. And we want to share more of these stories this year. And so if you want to share your story, and come to Missouri and be in our studios, you can email me at producer.fostertv@gmail.com, and we'd love to have you on the show. Remember, March 2nd, Tristan, Courtney, Mama T, and Rosley will all be in Branson for a live show at the Wildwood Indoor Mini Golf. We'll be talking about family vacations and having a good time. We got prizes, food, mini golf, and you can be a part of our live studio audience. So join us March 2nd in Branson, Missouri on the Wildwood Indoor Mini Golf.
I'm gonna kick your butt at some mini golf.
Oh, I hope so. I'm not too good at mini golf. All right, we'll see you on Monday here on Foster Life. Courtney will be back
I will!
Monday.